On the day we chose our college majors, the influencer who was the school's heartthrob held a livestream and announced that he had decided to lead the anti-rat race movement and would choose to attend a vocational college. The whole class followed him. Seeing the rapidly increasing number of followers, he smiled smugly. They can do these low-class jobs if they like. I'll change my choice back to Harvard University at the last minute. I tried to dissuade him, but this would cause network congestion. My girlfriend slapped me. You nerd. Who are you to tell our idol, Zach Simpson, what to do? In my previous life, I spent half an hour dissuading them, and only then did the students change their college choices. However, Zach failed to change his application due to network lag, and was admitted to a vocational college instead. He could not bear the blow and jumped into the river to commit suicide. The students who had entered prestigious universities collectively vented their anger on me. At the class reunion, they poured 99 bottles of beer down my throat and locked me in the karaoke's freezer. Who cares about the prestige of a prestigious university? You'll just be working for someone else after graduation anyway. Why did we follow Zach in the first place? Wasn't it to break this damn rule? Zach was leading us to realize our dreams. If you hadn't interfered, I would already have gone to a vocational college with him. They spoke disdainfully of prestigious universities, yet not one of them chose to drop out. I froze to death in a dark, cold freezer, my eyes wide open. Years later, they became elites in their respective fields, while my parents could only weep looking at my portrait. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to the day Zach was live streaming in the classroom. This time, I promised I would not interfere. Instead, I wished them a happy vocational college experience. Zach Simpson confidently said to the livestream camera, "Let me tell you one thing. I've decided to apply to a vocational college." The comments section was instantly thrown into an uproar. Zach was a famous, handsome, and highly accomplished student who scored 1400 on the college admissions test, but now it seemed that he wanted to attend a vocational college. It felt like he had lost his mind. Zach added, "I'm not crazy. I'm being rational. Education doesn't equal intelligence, nor does it equal dignity. My grandma has cleaned the streets for 30 years. Her broom is as noble as a professor's pen. Some people sit in offices, while others pour coffee. I'm willing to pour coffee because it's a form of honorable labor. We're different from the moment we were born. Why should we live according to a set template? I want to tell all of society that people are all the same. The college admission test is just a game set by humans, and I'm not playing it anymore." After he finished speaking, the livestream instantly gained 100,000 new followers, and the topic anti-rat race king, Zach Simpson, topped the ranks. The classmates in the classroom were all in tears. Zach is so amazing. Don't you think he's being very rational, independent, avant-garde, and fearless of societal pressure? He dares to say what we dare not. He's the new George Orwell. My girlfriend, Sophie Jordan, had red hands from clapping, and her eyes were filled with tears. "Royce Linwood, what do you think? Are you particularly moved? Which vocational college do you want to go to?" I stared at her. In my past life, she tricked me into going to the karaoke bar under the pretense of a class reunion. She was also the one who encouraged the whole class to get me drunk, made me kneel in the karaoke hallway, and finally shoved me into the freezer. I calmly answered, "I want to apply to Harvard." She slapped my face. "You academic fool. You're a sophisticated egoist. I must have been blind to have fallen for you." A girl nearby pushed me too. "He's heartless and single-minded. He doesn't understand Zach's core values. Zach is breaking down class barriers, yet he's just clinging to his crappy Harvard dream." The class arts representative showed me her phone, her eyes red. I changed my application to Remington, and my grandma posted on her social media saying that she's proud of me. You have no idea what it feels like to be approved by your family. Just then, Zach paused his live stream. He reached out, and Sophie quickly handed him a cup of coffee. Zach took a sip and spat it out immediately. Holy crap. I only drink it without sugar, and this has sugar added to it. Those vocational school idiots who make coffee can't even read properly. I'll continue my live stream later and change my application back at the last minute. When the acceptance letter comes, I'll say Harvard's president begged me to enroll. If I capitalize on this wave of attention, I'll have over 10 million followers. The class monitor was the first to react, clapping and laughing. Zach is truly a strategic genius. Those who go to vocational colleges are all idiots. Zach played along with them, and they actually took it seriously? Hilarious. Zach smugly waved his phone. It's the #1 trending topic, and those poorly educated people are still praising me. What a bunch of idiots. The whole class burst into laughter. Are they good enough? Are they? Do they really think we're like them? Hilarious. The anti-rat race is for peasants. We're going to prestigious universities and reaching the summit. Their attitude changed faster than lightning. I chuckled and said nothing. How boisterous. And to think I actually wanted to save these idiots in my past life. Just then, Sophie also started a live stream. She smiled sweetly at the camera. Hello, I'm the star girl of the Year 3 Humanities class. I hereby officially announce that I'm applying to this vocational college. There's only one reason for this. I want to prove to all of you that education is just a symbol, and that even though I attend a vocational college, I can still succeed. Everyone rushed to start their live streams. I'm applying for early childhood education. I'm applying to a culinary school. I'm applying for a railway vocational college. I just want to be an ordinary mechanic. The livestream chat exploded with comments, insulting those aiming for elite universities as the lowest of the low, self-righteous degree snobs, and slaves of the system. I quietly watched them put on a show. An official reminder popped up on my phone. In the last hour before the college admissions test deadline, the system often experiences lag due to high traffic. Please avoid frequently modifying your applications to prevent application lock-in failure. I silently watched the notification, saying nothing. The system would completely crash in half an hour. I was about to leave the classroom when Zach pulled me back. Hey, we still have a stubborn one in our class. Royce, everyone else has changed their applications, yet you haven't? Are you looking down on me? I chuckled. Why are you worth my respect? The atmosphere in the classroom suddenly became tense. Sophie immediately rushed over and kicked me. Royce Linwood, how could you talk to Zach like that? The other students gathered around, their eyes full of excitement. We all changed our applications, and you're the only exception. Aren't you just afraid you can't change it back? Is Harvard that important to you? You didn't cheat on your grades this time, did you? Are you afraid you'll fail when you retake the test next year? Stop with the nonsense. Let's collectively reform him. The collective reform they spoke of was nothing more than a series of violent acts. There was a boy in my class from a poor county who was bullied by the entire class until he was driven to depression and quit school for refusing to film a video about school bullying for Zach. Now it was my turn. Sophie slapped me repeatedly. I'll ask you one more time, are you going to change it? Disrespecting Zach in front of so many people means you don't consider him the idol. The whole class jeered. Hit him. Hit him hard. Someone kicked me in the back of the knee, forcing me to kneel. Change your college application. Then kneel and apologize to Zach. How dare someone like Royce go against Zach? Zach's family is wealthy. Even if Royce goes to Harvard, they can still get him expelled. Just then, there was a knock at the door. Hello, takeout. A girl in a blue work uniform, sweating profusely, peeked in, carrying fried chicken. She was from the next class. Her family was not well off, so she had been working part-time since the college admissions test. She looked at me and then at the group of people surrounding me before freezing. Zach glanced at the girl and sneered. Oh, you know you failed, so you can't wait to deliver takeout? You'd better close your eyes and mind your own business. People like you are the lowest of the low in society. Being in the same high school as us is already a highlight of your life. The girl gritted her teeth and said nothing. She entered the classroom, put the fried chicken on the table, and left with her head down. Zach smiled even more brightly before coming over and slapping me across the face. See, that's what you call knowing your place. Come on, Royce, open your college application system. 3 people held me down, and Sophie forcibly unlocked my phone with my fingerprint, opening the college application page. The screen displayed a local vocational school. Sophie burst into laughter first. Haha. Royce actually applied for a vocational college. We were pretending, but his must be real, right? It's a mechanical engineering college. After graduation, will he become an electrician or repair electric scooters? He's not capable of that. He'll probably be one of those assembly line workers in a small factory. Oh, he'll marry a masseuse when he graduates. The 2 people from the lowest social class will earn a combined monthly salary of $5,000. Say vocational colleges shouldn't exist. Someone slapped the table. Let all these low IQ people attend vocational colleges. How dare they claim to be college students once they graduate? It's simply a waste of educational resources. The whole class burst into laughter again. I knelt on the ground, with blood trickling from my lips and the skin on the back of my hand scratched and bleeding. However, I felt nothing inside. I looked up and scanned the podium. The live stream that was supposed to be paused was continuing. I stared at the camera and smiled, thinking, don't worry, Zach. Your performance is getting more and more exciting. Sophie finally released me and disgustedly shook her hand. All right. At least he knows his place. I fell to the ground, silently wiping the blood from the corner of my mouth. After they finished laughing, someone finally frowned. Well, speaking of which, there's less than 20 minutes left until the deadline, right? I just tried logging in, and the website is indeed lagging. Sophie glanced at him dismissively. What are you scared of? We're going to do a live stream later, so let's stir things up and get a few more idiots to sign up for vocational college with us. A boy chimed in. Yeah, let's have a competition later. Whoever signs up for vocational college with us gets money. Sophie nodded. That's a great idea. Then she looked at me. Royce, you have a lot of pocket money, right? Here's your chance to show your loyalty. You'll pay for the whole class. I laughed in exasperation. I felt sorry for her family's financial difficulties back then, so I subsidized her tutoring fees and treated her to meals from time to time. After graduation, she not only brazenly spent my money to buy gifts worth tens of thousands of dollars for teachers, but she also dared to say things like this. I looked up at her. Sophie, do you remember who paid for your mother's medical bills when she was hospitalized? Her expression changed. Don't try to change the subject. I continued. You said you'd pay me back $36,000 back then. 5 months have passed since then. I don't want the interest, but when are you going to give me the principal amount? She glanced at Zach and paused for a moment before suddenly laughing. You did it voluntarily. I only took your lousy money as a gesture of courtesy. Do you think just anyone deserves to spend money on me? I've always only liked Zach. You were the one who relentlessly pestered me to pay my medical bills. Now that I'm your girlfriend, you've got me, and you're asking me to pay you back? People can be shameless, but not this shameless. Someone chimed in. Come on, Royce. If you want to bring up old grudges, you should at least consider your own limitations. Who told you to cling so tightly to her? You poured money, food, and feelings into her. Who is to blame in the end? The school heartthrob and star girl are a perfect match. What are you? All right. Zach waved his hand. Time's running out. Let's start the livestream competition. They all turned on their live streams. Comments instantly filled the screen, but not the flattering praises they expected. Instead, the comment section was flooded with insults. Are you a school or a gang? Public bullying on livestream. Is no one going to do anything about it? Finally, someone noticed something was wrong. The comments seem off. Why are they all insulting us? Zach frantically checked his phone, yelling, Who the hell started this live stream? I turned it off just now. The whole class panicked instantly. Sophie's expression changed. You didn't turn off your live stream? Someone asked in a trembling voice. Was everything we said just now recorded? Zach instantly turned livid, and he immediately roared. Turn off your phone. Delete the livestream account. Never mind that for now. Sophie jumped up. Change your college application back right now. Quick. It'll be too late if you don't. The whole class frantically tapped on their phones. However, page failed to load. Loading. The system is busy. Please try again later. The web page froze. The classroom smelled of grease from the untouched fried chicken, ozone from the overheating laptops, and the sudden, sharp scent of cold sweat. Sophie's fingernails clicked against her screen with a frantic, desperate speed. Tap. Top. Tap. Load, you piece of trash. Load, she muttered, her voice rising to a thin, jagged pitch. Beside her, the class arts representative was staring at her phone as if it had turned into a venomous snake. The screen showed a white page with a single, gray, spinning circle in the center. It had been spinning for 3 minutes. Zach, the monitor said, his voice trembling so hard he could barely hold his device. My page went black. It says Gateway Timeout 504. What does that mean? Zach, what do we do? Zach didn't answer him. The anti-rat race king was no longer looking at his livestream camera. The phone he had been waving so triumphantly only minutes ago was held 2 inches from his nose. His face was a sickly, translucent white, the freckles on his nose standing out like drops of brown ink on wet paper. He was trying to log back into the portal, but his browser kept redirecting him to the login page, which immediately timed out. It's just lag, Zach said, his voice dry and hollow, stripped of the rich, theatrical resonance he had used for his 100,000 followers. It's because everyone is logging in at the same time. The servers are cheap. I'll call my dad. He knows the director of the regional admissions office. He can just get them to manually reset my account. He dialed his father's number. The phone rang once, twice, and then went straight to a busy signal. He tried again. The same dry, electronic beep met his ear. He's not answering, Sophie whispered, looking at Zach with a look of sudden, sharp horror. Zach, my mom just texted me. She said the local news is playing our live stream. They're calling it the Year 3 Humanities class. The principal is on his way to the classroom right now. Shut up. Zach roared, slamming his fist onto the podium. The plastic cup of coffee rattled, spilling a dark brown puddle across his printed SAT score sheet. Who cares about the principal? If the application isn't changed in 10 minutes, we're locked in. Sophie, use your phone's hotspot. My signal is down to 1 bar. I don't have a signal, she shrieked, showing him her screen. The cellular icon. In the corner was a tiny gray triangle with an X next to it. The school's signal scramblers, the ones they usually turned on only during exams to prevent cheating, had just been activated by the administration office. Downstairs, I sat on the floor near the back row, my back against the cool brick wall. My bottom lip was split, the taste of copper heavy and warm in my mouth, but I didn't wipe it away. I looked at the blackboard behind Zach. In my past life, this was the exact minute I had stood up, grabbed the classroom's landline phone, and dialed the emergency registration hotline. I had spent 15 minutes arguing with the operator, using my father's regional medical credentials to get them to bypass the local server block and reset the class portal. I had saved them all. And for that, they had given me 99 bottles of beer and a locked iron door. I pulled my knees to my chest, leaned my head back, and let out a soft, silent breath of pure, unadulterated relief. The wall clock above the door gave a heavy mechanical tick. 5 minutes to noon. The silence of the afternoon was broken by the heavy, rhythmic thud of the principal's leather shoes coming down the corridor. The door to the classroom was pushed open so hard the brass handle dented the drywall behind it. Principal Vance stood on the threshold, his face the color of old lard, his breath coming in short, wheezing gasps. Behind him stood two campus security guards and Mr. Harrison, our homeroom teacher, whose hands were shaking so violently he could barely keep his glasses on his nose. Zachary Simpson, the principal said, his voice dropping into that quiet, dangerous register used for students about to be expelled. Turn off the cameras. Now. Mr. Vance. Sophie cried, running toward him like a wet dog looking for a dry towel. You have to help us. The website is frozen. We were just doing a school project. We didn't mean to lock in the applications. Tell the IT department to open the gate. Principal Vance didn't look at her. He walked straight to the podium, grabbed Zach's phone from his hand, and stared at the screen. The screen displayed the final, automated system receipt. Submission successful. Candidate, Zachary Simpson. First choice, Remington. Municipal Rail and Mechanical College. Status locked. It's over, the principal said, his voice flat. He set the phone down on the spilled coffee. The provincial registry closed the database at 12 sharp. The system is encrypted with a national defense protocol. Not even the governor can change it now. A high, wet shriek escaped the arts representative's throat. She collapsed onto her desk, her forehead hitting the wood with a dull thump as she began to sob, not the soft, dramatic tears of her live streams, but a loud, choking rattle of pure, raw terror. Royce, Sophie turned to me, her eyes wide, wild, and completely bloodshot. She ran over and grabbed the collar of my flannel shirt, her fingers digging into my collarbone. Royce, you have the high-speed fiber cable in your house. Your dad bought you that satellite receiver. You can log in through the terminal. Change it for me, Royce. I'm your girlfriend. You paid for my mom's heart surgery. You love me. I looked down at her hands on my collar. Her fingers were dirty, the pink polish on her nails chipped and gray at the edges from where she had been clawing at her screen. I don't have a terminal anymore, Sophie, I said, my voice carrying the flat, level rhythm of a dry logistics report. I sold the satellite receiver last month to pay for my Harvard application fee. Harvard? Zach's head snapped around, his eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that made his pupils shrink to tiny black dots. But Sophie, opened your page. We saw it. It said Mechanical Engineering College. Oh, I said, reaching into my pocket and pulling out my phone. The screen was cracked from where Sophie had forced my thumb onto the sensor, but the display was still functional. I swiped open the cache browser history and showed them the page. It was an HTML spoof, a simple, offline draft page I had coded during the morning lecture while Zach was setting up his ring lights. The actual registration portal had been accessed by my account at 4:30 a.m. from the high-speed connection at my father's clinic downtown. Submission successful. Candidate, Royce Linwood. First choice, Harvard University, Department of Physics. Status locked. You. Sophie's breath caught in her throat. Her hand slid off my collar, her knees buckling as she sank onto the floor beside my desk. You lied to us. You knew the server would crash. You knew. I didn't lie to anyone, Sophie, I said, standing up and picking up my backpack. You were the one who said education is just a symbol. You said even if you attend a vocational college, you can still succeed. I was just respecting your core values. I walked past her toward the door. Zach stood by the podium, his knuckles white as he gripped the edge of the wood, his eyes fixed on the black puddle of coffee on his desk. He looked 90 years old. The golden hair that usually looked so perfect under the ring lights was flat and greasy, clinging to his temples like wet straw. Royce, Mr. Harrison called out as I reached the threshold. His voice was hoarse, carrying a strange, fearful pity. Where are you going? To get some lunch, Mr. Harrison, I said. The fried chicken is getting cold. The fallout was systematic, quiet, and entirely devoid of the drama they had anticipated. By the end of the week, the anti-rat race movement had vanished from the Trending topics, replaced by a much more clinical headline. Ministry of Education initiates investigation into high school cyberbullying and admission fraud. The video of the livestream, specifically the 15 minutes where Zach, Sophie, and the others had held me down, forced my fingerprint onto the sensor, and mocked the takeout girl, had been duplicated and uploaded to 40 different servers before Zach's account could be deleted. The public didn't see a group of avant-garde or Orwellian intellectuals. They saw a pack of wealthy, spoiled bullies who treated the working class like dirt while faking their own academic martyrdom for digital clout. We can't go to the supermarket, my mother said on Tuesday evening, her hands trembling as she set a bowl of soup on our kitchen table. There are reporters outside the gate, Royce. They keep asking if we're going to file criminal charges against the Jordan family. Don't worry about it, Mom, I said, taking a sip of the warm broth. The lawyers are handling it. The civil suit for the $36,000 has already been served to Sophie's father. $36,000? My father looked up from his medical journal, his brow furrowing. Is that the hospital money? Yes, I said. The promissory note she signed when her mother was in the cardiac unit. It has a standard collection clause. Since she's no longer my girlfriend, there's no reason to treat it as a gift. My phone, sitting on the wood beside my bowl, vibrated once. It was a text from an unknown number, but I recognized the regional code of the local detention center. Sophie, Royce, please. My dad had to sell the car to pay the first installment of the court fees. My mom's blood pressure is high again. We don't have the money for her medication. If you don't withdraw the suit, they're going to foreclose on our house. Royce, we've been together for 2 years. You used to buy me flowers every Friday. Have you lost your mind? I looked at the screen. I remembered the night of the reunion in my past life. I remembered her holding the first bottle of beer, her face twisted in that same self-righteous anger as she poured the warm, bitter liquid down my nose while 2 guys held my shoulders. You nerd, she had screamed back then, her voice echoing off the KTV's plastic-paneled walls. If you hadn't played the hero, Zach would still be here. You ruined my life. I typed a single sentence in reply. Royce. People can be shameless, Sophie, but not this shameless. Go ask Zach for the flowers. I blocked the number, turned the phone face down, and went back to my soup. The winter in New England was long, the snow falling in heavy, silent sheets that coated the red brick buildings of Harvard Yard in a thick, clean white. I spent my freshman year in the quiet sanctuary of the undergraduate library, my fingers moving across the pages of advanced particle physics journals, my mind completely consumed by the rigorous, beautiful certainty of mathematics. Here there were no live streams, no stargirls or anti-rat race kings. There were only people who slept 4 hours a night and argued about the boundary conditions of quantum fields over dry toast and cold black coffee. I returned to LA during the summer break. The city was hot, the smell of exhaust and dry pine needles heavy in the air as I stepped out of the airport terminal. I didn't go back to the old classroom. I didn't look up my old classmates' social media feeds. But 3 weeks into my vacation, my mother asked me to pick up some engine oil from the regional mechanical center near the railway district. The center was a collection of low, corrugated iron warehouses, smelling of old lubricants, wet rust, and the high-pitched metallic whine of lathe machines. I walked into the second workshop to find the manager's booth. Standing by a grease-splattered hydraulic lift was a boy in a dirty blue boiler suit. His hair, which had once been a bright, golden blonde, was shaved close to his skull, revealing a jagged, pink scar near his left ear where he had been hit by a loose fan belt during a training session. His face was smudged with black graphite grease, making his skin look gray and sallow under the buzzing fluorescent tube lamps. He was trying to loosen a rusted bolt on a truck chassis, his knuckles turning a raw, splotchy purple under the strain, his breath coming in short, wheezing gasps. Simpson. A voice roared from the adjacent office. An older man with a beer gut and a stained cap stepped out, holding a clipboard. You've been on that bracket for 40 minutes. Those vocational school idiots can't even read a torque wrench properly. Get it off or I'm ducking your shift pay. Zach Simpson didn't shout back. He didn't talk about his 1400 SAT score. He didn't mention George Orwell or the nobility of the broom. He simply lowered his head, wiped the sweat from his eyes with his greasy sleeve, and leaned his entire weight onto the iron wrench. The wrench slipped. With a sharp, wet crack, Zach's hand slammed against the iron frame of the engine block. He didn't shriek. He just stood there, his head bowed, his fingers clutched against his chest as the dark red blood began to drip onto the gray concrete floor, mixing with the dark puddles of engine oil. He looked up and saw me standing by the entryway, holding my father's car key. Our eyes met across the greasy, noisy workshop. For 5 seconds, the only sound was the high-pitched whine of the lathe machine. In the background, Zach's jaw moved, his lips dry and peeling, but no words came out. He didn't look angry. He looked hollow, like an old house that had been cleared of its furniture after a foreclosure. I didn't offer a supportive smile. I didn't look down at his bleeding hand with disgust. I simply handed the order form to the clerk at the counter, took the box of engine oil, and walked out of the warehouse into the hot, clean sunlight of the afternoon. The holiday get-together was organized by the alumni committee in late December. I had declined the invitation twice, but Mr. Harrison, who was now the vice principal, had personally called my father to ask if I would attend to receive the regional scholarship plaque. The venue was the Royal Palace KTV downtown, the exact same establishment where, in my past life, they had gotten me drunk on 99 bottles of beer and locked me in the industrial freezer in the basement. I arrived at 8 p.m., wearing a simple wool coat and my glasses. The private room on the third floor was large, decorated in cheap gold leaf molding, purple velvet sofas, and a massive screen playing a muted pop music video. The air was thick with the smell of warm beer, fruit platters, and the sweet, cloying scent of Sophie's cheap rose perfume. When I walked in, the chatter died instantly. The classmates who had entered local state universities or vocational schools were sitting in the corners of the room, looking older, thinner, and carrying a quiet, defensive posture that looked entirely out of place in a holiday celebration. Sophie sat on the velvet sofa, her hair loose, her face pale under the purple neon lights. She was wearing a dress that looked slightly frayed at the hem, her fingers clutching a cheap plastic cup of cider. "Royce," Mr. Harrison said, standing up and handing me the wooden plaque. "Congratulations on the Harvard Dean's List. The school is very proud of you." "Thank you, Mr. Harrison," I said, taking the plaque. The classmates looked at the gold lettering on the wood, then at my clean coat, and finally at their own hands. "Royce," a voice whispered from the corner of the sofa. It was Sophie. She stood up slowly, her steps unsteady, her eyes wet with tears. As she walked toward me, "Royce, can we talk? Just for 5 minutes. In the hallway." "There's nothing to talk about, Sophie," I said, sliding the plaque into my bag. "Please." She sobbed, reaching out to grab my arm, but I stepped back, my boots clicking firmly against the plastic floor. "The house, they foreclosed on it last month. My mom is living in a rental room near the railway district. I'm working 20 hours a week at the kindergarten, cleaning up vomit and washing plastic toys for $3 an hour. Royce, I was wrong. I was stupid. I let Zach trick me." "No one tricked you, Sophie," I said, my voice quiet as the winter wind outside. "You were the one who said education is just a symbol. You said we should break the rules. You got exactly what you wanted." Just then, the door to the room opened wide, and the manager of the KTV stepped in carrying a clipboard. "Excuse me," the manager said, looking at Mr. Harrison. "The Regional Food Safety Division is here for an unscheduled inspection of our cold storage. We need to clear the basement hallway for 10 minutes. I froze. The memory of the dark, iron-doored freezer, the frost on my eyelashes, and the sound of my own shallow, freezing breath returned to me with a sudden, violent force. I looked at the manager, then at the classmates who were sitting on the velvet sofa, looking at me with a mix of fear and envy. "The freezer," I said, my voice dropping to a whisper that made the KTV room go completely silent. "Is it the one near the back exit?" "Yes, sir." The manager blinked, surprised. "The industrial grade one." "Why? Make sure you check the lock," I said, looking directly into Sophie's eyes. "Sometimes the door clicks shut from the outside. It's very hard to breathe in there." Sophie's face went from pale to a sallow, sickly gray. She took a step back, her hands shaking so hard her cup of cider slipped from her fingers, spilling a dark, sticky puddle across the purple velvet of the sofa. The train back to Boston was quiet in the winter. The air inside the carriage was warm, smelling of hot tea and the dry wool of the passengers' coats. Outside the window, the frozen lakes and the gray barren forests of upstate New York slid past in a blur of silent white. I sat in my window seat, my laptop open on my knees, my fingers moving slowly across the keyboard as I drafted my final research proposal for the physics department. The screen displayed a series of complex, beautiful equations, clean, logical, and entirely free of the human rot that had defined my past 2 lives. My phone vibrated in my pocket. It was an email notification from my father's office in LA. Subject: Jordan family bankruptcy case concluded, trust account settled. I clicked the attachment. The Jordan family's debt had been liquidated by the court, and the final payment of $36,000 had been transferred to my father's clinic account. Sophie and her family were officially off the register. They were no longer debtors. They were simply nobodies, living in a rented room in the old town, entirely irrelevant to the world of the living. I closed the email, put my phone on silent, and looked out the window. The The sun was beginning to break through the gray clouds of the morning, casting a pale, warm light over the wet snow of the fields and the dark blue water of the distant river. I took a deep, clean breath, my chest completely light, my eyes clear, and my path finally beautifully my own.